We welcome you to another edition of Snap the Pigskin. Noah Clark, Kedrick Stumbris. We got a great show for you today. The Steelers taking over the AFC North over the Baltimore Ravens. Are the Steelers looking like a legit Super Bowl contender? We'll find out. The New York Jets fired general manager Joe Douglas, and the Jets are looking like they're going to do a complete rebuild, new regime. We'll see what happens with the New York Jets. The Green Bay Packers taking ownership over the Chicago Bears to extend their win streak to 11. And finally, the Chiefs lose their first game of the regular season. They lose to the Bills. Noah Clark, Kedrick Stumbris. Kedrick, you're an online sensation. I see on the bottom there of your little
Many people are saying yes.
You've been blowing up the last few weeks. The last week and a half or so, I should say.
Yeah. I'm, as many people have said, I am your mom's favorite poster. So,
all right. First down. Let's get right into it here. Our drives of the week. First down, the Pittsburgh Steelers beating the Baltimore Ravens. It was really quite a low-scoring game, but in the AFC North, we've seen kind of these games between the Steelers and the Ravens be low scoring, hasn't been really high scoring, hasn't been too defensive or hasn't been too offensive.
That's the difference, is it's low scoring or high scoring. Sometimes not too low scoring, not too many points, not too high scoring,
yes,
not too defensive. Way to describe the perfect middle of a football game.
Correct. But but in the end, the
if you were any less descriptive, you just simply wouldn't be talking.
No. In the end, though, the Steelers did beat the Ravens. They are now first in the AFC North.
You're sure they didn't tie or anything in between?
They didn't tie, sadly. They didn't tie. But Pittsburgh, they look really good. They really held Lamar Jackson in check on Sunday. They now have first place in the AFC North, locked down for the moment. They still have to play the Bengals. They still have to play the Ravens again. But right now, Steelers looking pretty scary in that AFC North, that competitive AFC North, might I
add. The only team in the league with a defense that is generating positive EPA per play on quarterback scrambles the last 2 weeks is the Pittsburgh Steelers, which that is bananas, considering the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers the last 2 weeks have played the Ravens and the Commanders. So the last 2 weeks have been Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels. And that's not EPA per play is not an opponent's adjusted stat. It's not a QB adjusted stat. So the fact they're just straight up generating positive EPA on two of the most mobile quarterbacks in the league scrambling is bananas. That defense is in a league of its own right now. And I think they're just going to win the division. Yep. I couldn't. Too bad there weren't any idiots on a podcast saying they're going to finish last in the division below 500 for the first time since they play in the AFC Central. Good thing nobody did that.
Yeah, nobody hopefully didn't do that. But looking at Pittsburgh's schedule, if the season, and also too looking at the playoff picture, if the season were to end today, if the playoffs were to start today, Pittsburgh would have the 3 seats, so they get to host a playoff game, which is really huge for Pittsburgh. But also, too, you look at down the stretch of their season, it's not too favoring for them because you look at their schedule. Besides the Browns, I mean, yeah, it's the Browns. They play the Browns in like two games in a span.
No. You're no. They play the Chiefs on Christmas Day and host the Chiefs on Christmas Day. The Steelers are in prime position to just get the number 1 seed in the AFC. They got to win some more games between now and then, right? And they got to play the Chiefs on short rest because they also play at the Ravens 4 days beforehand. But like, the number one seed in the AFC, like driver's seat, Pittsburgh's right there.
Yes.
It's no, buckle up. I don't want to hear that their schedule is unfortunate. This team, this
Well,
defense,
they got the Eagles though.
I don't
The
give
Eagles
a
and the
darn.
Ravens. Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs. You don't think that they struggle in that 3-game stint? In that 3-game span?
Like maybe. I don't. What scares me about the Eagles?
The offense, I think, is the only thing that scares me about the Eagles.
Okay, and compared to the last 2 weeks where the Steelers just put the brakes on Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
Jalen
Hurts doesn't
it's
scare
also
me
too like
more
the
than Lamar
Commanders
Jackson does. Not even close.
Well, the other thing is too is with like the Commanders' defense, they aren't necessarily that good,
right?
So like, yeah,
they don't play the Commanders.
No, I'm talking about the Steelers when they played them. Like the Commanders' defense wasn't that good, like up to that point. I'm saying for the Commanders. So,
but if the Steelers can win games over the Ravens by only allowing the Ravens to score 16 points, they can beat just about anybody.
And
I get it. They haven't played a world beater of a schedule, and I get that their offense is weird stop and go, and it's been half Russell Wilson and half Justin Fields and whatever. But like, that defense is enough to where they're going to be in every game.
Yeah.
The rest of the season, they have 2 losses. One of them by a field goal to the Cowboys. The other by a field goal to the Colts. They are going to be in every game the rest of the season. I firmly believe that.
And I think what's also impressive too is they beat the team that's number 2 in DVOA in the National Football League, the Baltimore Ravens, which that I will say, I'll let you have this one. I will say that was a pretty impressive win.
Wait. Hang on. Before we turned this camera on, Noah was over here telling me about how KenPom is a load of crap. Now he wants to use DVOA. They're both predictive metrics. It's like the same thing.
It's a different kind of stat, though, isn't it? Like the same thing from KenPom. Well, I don't know. Like you tell me. Like I'm seriously asking the question. What is there a difference? Or are they the same?
I don't know how KenPom works, but it's voodoo witchcraft. It doesn't. No. DVOA that works though for sure. They're both predictive metrics. DVOA works on a down-to-down basis. KenPom throws in your possessions and your performance against teams as a whole, and not just win-loss. You're tempo adjusted, opponent adjusted. That's the same thing as DVOA.
Okay, I get that. Interesting. I still don't know if I believe in
the college
KenPom,
basketball segment of the NFL Snap the Pigskin podcast.
We've already had like 2 college basketball segments in the last 2 out of the last 3 weeks.
We probably need more, to be honest.
Hey, it's gonna get pretty bleak here once we get to the playoffs, because we won't have much to talk about. I mean, we'll have the playoffs regardless, but still.
You host an NFL podcast and you just said there won't be much to talk about once we get to the NFL playoffs.
I know,
my man, you're losing the thread here.
I'm losing it. Anyways, let's talk about the Jets, because the Jets are kind of hilarious. Second down, they fired general manager Joe Douglas finally. Joe Douglas, that was it was a tenure there in the Jets that did not go very well, but you look at it. He drafted Garrett Wilson. He drafted Sauce Gardner. He traded for Aaron Rodgers. He traded for Devontae Adams. He got Hassan Reddick. I believe he drafted Quinnen Williams. Signed Robert Saleh. I mean, all of this to really not pan out for the New York Jets. And not a great way to end. And a lot of things have came out from the New York Jets recently. The Athletic posted an article out there that the owner, Woody Johnson, wanted Aaron Rodgers benched after week 4 or 5, I believe. The article was out there by the Athletic that they wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers. Joe Douglas didn't feel like that would have been the best idea, especially because it's Aaron Rodgers, but also too, it's like they were also like only had 1 loss at that point during the season. So yeah, but overall, Jets, they're going to have a new regime in 2025. It's going to be a completely new look for this team, new general manager, new head coach, potentially new quarterback. It sounds like that they're going to move on from Aaron Rodgers at the end of this year. Will he play? Who knows? But the New York Jets looks like they're getting a fresh start in 2025, Kedrick.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
As I've said on the show,
As you said on
about the New York Jets.
As you said on the show.
I will talk about serious football organizations on the show.
Oh God. I'm very happy about that. But I will say, don't let your owners control football organizations. Especially, let me rephrase that. Don't let owners
No.
Yes.
You have also been on this show. Here we are, segment 2. It's another time where I get to point out Noah hypocrisy. Noah, what's the word I'm looking for? Reactionary isms. You have also said on this show that the Packers are at a disadvantage for not having an owner.
When did I say that?
You have 100% said this.
I've never said that.
Oh, all right. I will. I'm not digging into the archives for this. It's not worth my time.
I don't think I've ever. I don't think I've ever said that. But
I guarantee that you have. I guarantee we've had this.
I've said stuff about the Panthers and their ownership. Why their ownership is so bad because the owner won't keep his hands off the team. And the same thing happens with the Jets. Like this is the same. It's the same cycle with the New York Jets. They hire a GM, they hire a head coach that thinks that they'll change this team, but then when things don't go well, the owner wants to just kind of get him out of there, send him to Timbuktu, and likes to do all that stuff. And I hate that from some owners because these owners sometimes just don't know football. Woody Johnson is a guy who just simply does not know football. Same with Dave Tepper on the Panthers. Doesn't know football. Same with Shad Khan on the Jaguars, doesn't know football. These guys need to just kind of push themselves to the side and just let the guys who know football do the freaking job. Like that's why you look at teams like the Chiefs, the Steelers, the Ravens, and even the Eagles. And yes, the Packers, but they technically don't even have an ownership. They have a team president. They let the guys who are actual football guys dictate, how the team should be run. And if the owner gets control of that, you're automatically or almost screwed in that sense. It has worked for one team. It's worked for the Cowboys. But after that, look at now what's happened to Dallas in this tenure, in this run with Jerry Jones. It's not been good. It's not been pretty. And that's just my thoughts on it. That's my thoughts on just owners and trying to have full say in the organization. I think they should just kind of keep to themselves. Yes, you own a football team, but that doesn't mean you have to run it. Like you can just sit back, let the chips fall where they may.
You have 100% told me before that the Packers are at a disadvantage not having an owner.
I don't think I have.
So annoyed that I do not have the quote to pull here. Oh my God, this is going to kill me tonight because I'm going to have to find this because it's going to bring me, I'm going to labor over the work of doing this more than the joy it's going to bring me from proving you wrong here. But
he's going out of his way to try and prove me wrong.
But I know that I'm right. And that's my North Star.
That is a
people who know
dark
me,
North Star.
Look, people who know me hear this, and
he's not.
People
wrong,
who don't no, the people who don't know me think that's funny. The people who do know me know that's not funny because it's painfully true, and it is a character flaw.
Yeah. oh man. All right. Let's move on to the more funnier stuff. Third down, which is the Packers beat the Bears once again to extend their ownership to 11 games. And I had to throw this shirt on, this little bad boy today, because Bears fans have been talking all that good stuff the whole offseason, had been saying that this was their year, that the last few years, a few years ago, and a certain general manager said that they were going to take the NFC North and never give it away. And now here they are sitting once again in last place with a garbage head coach and a team that lost on a blocked field goal. And not good for the Bears. I wish we could have Sam here just to see what his thoughts were on this, but I also am pretty happy that like he's not here because I feel like we would just absolutely just roast the daylights out of him. But Green Bay beats the Bears. They got a huge matchup with San Francisco this coming week. That's going to be very exciting. The Packers have had issues with the San Francisco 49ers. They've lost their last 2 games against them, both of them in the playoffs. The last regular season matchup that they had was in 2021. They did win that game, but after that, they've lost their last 2 to San Francisco. Overall, though, I don't want to give too much hype for the Bears because I'm not a big Bears guy, but it seemed like with Thomas Brown, there was a little bit more energy and a little bit more intensity from that Bears team. And it showed on Sunday.
Okay.
I know you don't want to talk Bears, but like
I don't know. I don't know that I care about like they showed more energy or intensity. I don't know how true or measurable that is. It was I mean the difference in offensive efficiency in that game for Chicago was Caleb Williams' ability on the ground to scramble, and they played well in that game when Caleb Williams took the ball on the ground. The Packers on the flip side did pretty well against a Bears defense that either leads the league or is really close to it in passing defense DVOA to this point in time. Not to get you too flustered about Ken Palm and Bart Torvik again. But I genuinely, just because of the way these games have gone over the last 8 years, I genuinely never doubted this until basically the last drive of the game when the Bears set up for the not game-winning field goal attempt. I just kind of assumed the Packers were going to find a way to win because that's what they did. The Packers defense didn't play phenomenal. Caleb Williams kind of carved them up a little bit, especially on that last drive, and wasn't great. But this is the problem with Green Bay thus far, though, is I think we keep saying that they either just haven't lived up to what we thought they were in losses, or they win ugly. And we're like, all right, well, when they start performing the way we expect them to, they're going to look really dangerous, but that hasn't happened yet, over midway through the season. Maybe that changes. Of course, now you have a fully healthy Jordan Love, which it seems you have not had all year, except for that first game of the season in Brazil, which is also seemingly kind of a throwaway. And maybe it improves. Maybe it's just Toyota-thon. But this game said more to me, I think. I shouldn't say that. I was going to say this game said more to me about the Packers than it did about Chicago, but I don't think that's totally true. In the grand scheme of the season, it means more for the Packers because that NFC North 1, 2, 3 are each, separated by one game. It's going to be a really competitive division, probably 2 wild card spots coming out of it. Presumably the NFC number 1 seed in Detroit coming out of it too. It's just been a banger of a division all year, and every team still has a positive point differential in that division, which is crazy.
Yeah. And it really is insane that like we might be seeing 2 teams from that division potentially meet, like potentially have a deep playoff run. Like if looking at it, if the playoffs started today, we'd have 3 NFC North teams in the postseason. The Lions, the Vikings, and the Packers would all make it in to the playoffs. And I wouldn't be surprised if Green Bay did make a run. I don't think Minnesota is going to make a run. I think they're starting to trend downward slowly. It's a slow process. But here's the other thing too, like about the Lions. It's like, I don't know. I've questioned the Lions the last couple of weeks. And I don't know if you're with me on this or not, or if I'm just overthinking this. But the Lions have not been overly impressive when it comes to playing teams over 500. I mean, you look at it, the Rams, 500 team, the Bucks, a 500 team, the Cardinals, a 500 team. They only won those games by a score, like by 6 points or, less. And then I look at teams like the Cowboys, the Titans, and the Jaguars. They handle those teams pretty easily, but it's like those teams really aren't that good. And then even against like the
Yeah, but the
Texans
Packers
too.
don't beat the heck out of like bad teams that they play, right? The Lions beat the hell out of
No.
teams that they should, which is not something
Yeah.
most football teams do. That's the mark of a good to great football team is that they take care of business. And it's not easy to put up 52 points in an NFL football game. And for the Lions to do that this week against the Tennessee Titans, or not this week, but like
Jaguars.
a month ago against the Titans and last week against the Jaguars. That's twice they've put up 50 this season. That's not easy.
I know. I don't know. It's just like to me, because even watching the Texans game, it's like they're good, but like they made like with Jared Goff, threw too many turnovers in that game, and they still found a way to win. And it's like,
yeah, because they can win with their offense, or they can win through their defense.
Yeah,
that's a really good team.
I don't know. It's just maybe I am overthinking it about this Lions team, but I don't know. It's just like they are so puzzling to me now because they beat these teams and they know that they beat these teams who are bad and they beat them handily like they should. But it's also like against these other close teams, it's like,
how on earth are you coming out of a week where the Lions beat the hell out of an NFL football team and now all of a sudden you want to doubt them?
Well, it's like
your takeaway from a 52-6 victory was, I don't know, Lions might not have the juice.
Well, they might not have the juice. I don't know. Well, because you look at the second half. You look at the second half of like their season. They've got Green Bay, Buffalo, and San Fran and Minnesota. Like,
what does that have to do with anything they've done on the field so far?
I don't know. Like, I don't know if you can like keep at a pace they're going. Like, I don't know if they'll be able to keep like this up where they can just have.
So it's both a problem that they have not done enough and that they are doing too much now.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking.
It feels like
I think I'm overthinking.
You are struggling to have anything resembling a take on the Lions.
Maybe I'm overthinking. I don't know. Just Detroit, they're just puzzling to me. And I said this to like Tegan the other day, and she's like, stop overthinking. The Lions are just good. They are just good. So maybe they are just good. I will say Lions Bills could be a potential Super Bowl preview though. That'll be really fun. Which brings us
better hope they don't play too hard in that game. They might not have anything out there,
Totally.
It's not like they're professional athletes or anything.
And this brings us to the fourth down here. We segue to this because Lions Bills potential Super Bowl preview because Chiefs finally lost a game. Kansas City finally lost a game. Their devil magic has finally worn off and they have lost a game. They lose to the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen went nuclear in the last 2 minutes of that game. And it was incredible stuff. And the 1972 Dolphins are still the only team to go undefeated throughout the regular season and including the postseason and win a Super Bowl. I'm gonna be honest here. Buffalo has been legit so far, and they have looked good. Why are you shaking your head? Why are we shaking your head?
I'm just enjoying you reacting to the most recent data point. That's all.
The Bills look legit. you look at their 2 losses. Yeah, they got blown out by the Ravens and they lost to the Texans by a field goal, but they have played games that have been pretty well. And Josh Allen, I think, has been really the key component for why this Bills team is so dang good. And I don't know. I mean, like, you don't think Buffalo has a shot? I feel like they do, just because Josh Allen is tearing it up this year, and
No,
he's
they're great.
probably a front runner to be MVP.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Or probably. Um, yeah, I would say probably. I mean, what they don't have the AFC 1 seed right now.
Mm-mm.
But they do have the head-to-head over Kansas City. So if Kansas City loses again, they would. But yeah, they've looked awesome. Except for that stinker against the Ravens. They've looked awesome all year. Josh Allen is, I mean, doing more this year, just like on a on an adjusted basis, considering the talent around him, than probably at any other time in his career. He has looked incredibly impressive, and that that defense got enough stops against Patrick Mahomes to give him the win. And I am excited that I can finally pick against the Chiefs in football games for the first time ever, because they have finally lost one. Because otherwise, I just simply wasn't going to do it this season.
I probably wouldn't have done it this year, but uh, I mean, like with Josh Allen, dude, he has been so good this year, and it's like they're like I'm surprised that not many. I mean, like this feels like a pretty stupid take to say, but I'm surprised that nobody's talked about Josh Allen being an MVP front runner at this point. I mean, it sounds pretty dumb, but
Yeah, because people have definitely talked about Josh Allen for MVP.
well,
That's
it's
why.
also too, but it's also too like everybody's been talking about Lamar freaking Jackson for like the last like 2 seasons, and like oh Lamar, he's so good. Oh, look at Lamar.
Is your argument that Lamar hasn't been good?
No, my argument is like they need to like take a look outside of just Lamar and look at the fact that Josh Allen is playing really well. Oh, Jared Goff is playing really well statistically. Oh, you look at Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was playing well and then had that 4-game skid. Oh, you look at like just look outside. Look outside a bit. And just look at all the other ones. Cuz Lamar, I think while Lamar is pretty good, like there are other people out there who are just as good, if not better, than Lamar, and better than Patrick Mahomes too. If we're being honest here,
Do you think nobody's talked about MVP contenders outside of Lamar Jackson?
no.
Okay.
You don't think so?
I think that plenty of people have floated names other than Lamar Jackson for MVP. But there was plenty of discussion about how Baker Mayfield was playing as an MVP caliber quarterback to start the season. There was
Yeah.
plenty of discussion about how Jared Goff is playing as an MVP caliber quarterback to start the season. There's plenty of conversation about how Derrick Henry was playing as an MVP caliber running back to start the season. It has not just been a Lamar Jackson conversation for MVP.
Interesting. Well, I haven't heard much about the Bills this year. Just like, and I mean, I don't know if it's because we expect the Bills to be good, but it's also like I don't know. Just haven't heard much about the Bills. I haven't heard much about the Bills up until this point. I mean, like,
if only you had a platform to talk about the teams that you think are unrepresented.
Hooray.
If only.
What we will say is we'll represent Buffalo for having an outdoor stadium. That is the big one. Which also too, did you see Northwestern's the renderings of their stadium? Like I know we're getting off top, but like Northwestern in their renderings.
Sure, that's never going to be built.
I wish like the Bears would just wise up and not do a dome. That's the other thing. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Man, we're cooking with gasoline here today. Bringing home the bacon. This was a tough one. Joe Mixon, 20 carries, 109 yards, 3 touchdowns for Joey Mix-em-up. A domination over the Cowboys. And not only was their roof collapsing, but their defense was collapsing as Joe Mixon ran for 20 carries in that game. And I've said Joe Mixon's having an under the radar good year for the Texans. Sure, they're 22nd in what we talked about last week, 22nd in EPA in rush EPA, but like overall he's having a decent season. And one of the more underrated signings that the Texans got this year was Joe Mixon. And I feel like he's a guy that I don't think will get considered for awards, but like he's a guy that should be considered at least for, maybe a finalist for offensive player of the year by some standards.
Yeah, he's a huge part of what the Texans do. He won't get those accolades unless the Texans win some more games. But for him to kind of put the team on his back and put the Dallas Cowboys on ice, huge for him. And that Texans offense, which has been a little bit stop and go at times. And if CJ Stroud is going to continue to struggle at times like he has during this season, not that means that he's going to struggle throughout his career by any means, they're going to need more Joe Mixon to make that Texans offense work.
Yeah. Looking at the stats from Joe Mixon too, he's 7th in the NFL in carries. He's 8th in the NFL in rush yards. He's got 764 rush yards, but he is tied for 3rd with touchdowns this year. He's got 10 touchdowns this season for the Houston Texans. What's wild about that, though, is he's 106th in the NFL in average yards per carry with 4.5 yards. So he's it's not bad, but it's also 10 touchdowns is pretty good, like 3rd in the NFL, especially with who else you're putting up there as well. You got Derrick Henry, and along with some other people in that list, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley has been having a good year. I will say Saquon Barkley should, if we're being honest too, like offensive play of the year, it's going to come down to Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry. I feel like one of those two probably might
sounds about right.
But then it's the other thing is man, this is going to be such a close race. And I feel like if I were to choose, I think I would have to go with Barkley because he's made more of an impact in terms of catching the ball in the backfield and his explosiveness, and just even too, being like a perfect piece for the Eagles. Now, the other thing could be said about Derrick Henry as well, too, because Derrick Henry's the same. The only difference is they don't throw him the ball as much. He's just a great compliment for what the Ravens' identity is, which is running the football and giving Lamar Jackson opportunities to throw.
Derrick Henry is averaging 6 yards per rush right now.
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody is catching. I don't know that anybody's catching enough balls out of the backfield to make me say, 6 yards per attempt out of the backfield on a team contending for its division isn't good enough. It's really dang impressive, and he has the most rushing touchdowns and yards in the league. I can't believe Derrick Henry has not turned into a corpse for whatever reason. He has defied age for NFL running backs he's going to be 31 years old before the season ends. Crazy.
And they gave him, what was it, a 1-year deal too for Baltimore? Or was it more?
It was.
I know they paid.
Deal.
I know they paid Saquon Barkley. The Eagles paid Saquon a lot more.
I don't know.
For a lot more years, but
you shouldn't pay a 30-year-old running back more than a 1-year contract.
And then also too, do we throw Josh Jacobs into that mix for offensive play of the year or no?
Absolutely not.
No.
No, not even close.
I mean, he's third in the NFL in rush yards and fifth in carries, but I do think that
I mean, like it could change. It could change. There's a lot of season left.
Yeah.
He's just not. I don't think he's enough of a centerpiece on a team. I don't think that's possible for a team that's going to finish maybe third in its division.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is too is he's only got 4 touchdowns this year. You look at some of the other players; they're finding the end zone a lot, and
yeah, that hurts too.
That's a big
and that's a BS stat, but like that hurts in your chances of winning awards like this.
So, I mean, good luck. I feel like this year it's going to be a very running back heavy award. There isn't really a receiver out there, in my opinion, that really is dominant. Ideally,
I mean, maybe not enough to win Offensive Player of the Year, but
yeah. We'll also have this talk probably at the end of the season, when they get to the NFL honors. But let's get to our Pigskin Primetime picks. We got a lot of time left, but Kedrick, do you have the scores for our PPPs?
And I am still winning.
You are still winning
and opening up a lead that is approaching a full point lead.
Yikes.
At 10.8 points per game compared to 11.6 points per game, slowly creeping up. For whatever reason, in my notebook, I don't have Sam's pick for the Texans at Cowboys game, so I'm gonna have to go back and get that. I'm sure he didn't pick the Texans by 24, but he absolutely did better this time than the first time he was on the show this season, unless he picked the Cowboys to win by like 20.
I thought it was Texans by 3 or Texans by 2,
probably something like that. So a much better performance for Sam this time around.
Woohoo! So, you get to go first today, once again, and let's start it off. This week, though, I will say primetime games overall, pretty solid, solid lineup.
Continuing to live up to the hype for sure.
Yeah, pretty solid lineup.
Yeah, the first, of course, being Steelers at Browns on Thursday Night Football. Short week, short rest for the Steelers on the road, but they are just head and shoulders better than the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are last in DVOA right now, and I imagine that Steelers defense is going to put the Browns offense in a blender. I'm going to take the Steelers by 10 in this one, and I think that's being conservative only because I don't know how big you can pick the Steelers in this, because I don't know how many points their offense is going to put on the board.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way I could see this game going to the Browns, is just because the Steelers offense doesn't get moving.
Yeah, the Steelers, they look so good head and shoulders above the rest. I, however, I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna trust Jameis Winston here in this one. I think the Browns are gonna be interesting. There's a stat that I pulled out here. Since Mike Tomlin has taken over as the head coach, he has not had a winning record over the Steelers he has not had a winning record over the Browns when they've played on Thursday Night Football. He is 0-3 in Thursday night matchups against the Brown in his tenure.
Feels incredibly cherry picked.
Yeah. With that though, I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like the Browns, could cause some chaos here. I feel like you look at it, the Steelers are coming off a big week against the Ravens, and they're going to get brought back down to earth by playing the Browns. I think the Browns are going to win this one. I think the Browns are going to win this one by 1. I think it's going to be really, really close. I think that Pittsburgh is going to struggle. I think we see the Browns kind of, get that ground game going get them. We see Jameis Winston just kind of air it out. I mean, because they really have nothing to lose at this point. So give me Browns by 1 here in this game, and Mike Tomlin going to go to 0-4 against the Cleveland Browns on Thursday Night
This
Football.
feels like me picking the rookie quarterbacks, except for Trevor Lawrence, don't win in London theory. To pick the Jags to win a game. It feels like that level of cherry picked here, and I can't imagine it's going to go well for you because it did not go well for me either.
No.
All right. The Eagles at the Rams on Sunday Night Football. Pair of teams that have had a little bit of a stop and go season. The Rams in particular. The Eagles have. It's not that they've been stop and go. It's just that they started a little bit more slowly than I think I expected them to after beating the Packers in the season opener. But wow, if they didn't make themselves look a heck of a lot better than the Washington Commanders, that Washington defense looks like it's toast. Cliff Kingsbury continues to not beat the allegations of not being successful in the latter half of a season. Of course, the first allegation coming as Rasul Douglas ended the Arizona Cardinals' hopes and dreams for the entire country to see. I'm going to take the Eagles. Maybe only because it feels like the Rams have an ability to put up a stinker in a big spot. They looked awful against the Dolphins a couple weeks back. And that doesn't mean they're going to look awful against Philly. But Philly feels like they have it rocking and rolling right now. But overall, this is a big game with big playoff implications for both teams. Both these folks pretty desperately need a win. The Rams more so to keep themselves in a good spot for a playoff spot. The Eagles to keep themselves ahead in the NFC East race. But I'm going to take the Eagles by 4.
I got to go Rams here in this one. It's the thing about this game. It's going to be like, this is a must-win game for the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Like they can't lose any more games the rest of the season. They have to win out just to even make the playoffs. And you look at it, the season, if the postseason were to start today, the Rams would be the 8th seed. They just miss out. The Commanders would get that last 7 seed. And the Rams, dude, like, man, talk about a worse timing for the Rams. They lose to the Dolphins They lose to the Dolphins a couple weeks ago, which was a bad loss. And they almost lose to the Patriots in Foxborough, which almost, I've said that a lot, almost was a bad loss, but they pulled it out. And now you look at the stretch of this season, they've got to start winning games, and they've got to start, figuring out who they are as a team fast, because they've got, after the Eagles, you got the Saints, the Bills, the Niners, the Jets, Cardinals, Seahawks. And the month of December is going to be very telling on what this team is going to be and if they are going to be a playoff team, especially for the fact you have to play all of your divisions still. Again, this is a very big game. This is a get-right this is a get-right game for this team. They have to show up. They have to play well. I think they will play well. Give me Rams by 3. I can't have them go out like this. I just can't, because I picked them to win the division and to make the playoffs, and I can't have them go out like this. So give me Rams by 3 here over the Eagles. Ram it, baby. Ram it. Ram it, ram it, ram it.
All right. Finally, it is the Monday night Harbowl. Ravens at the Chargers. And I am taking the Chargers. I didn't think I would going into this, because the Ravens are what they are, and that is one of the 3 best teams in football, probably, along with Detroit and Buffalo. But the Ravens are not good at stopping the pass. And in a game where this has two really good run defenses, ultimately, I think somebody's going to have to win that through the air. And I probably trust Baltimore to do that more on the arm of Lamar Jackson in a vacuum if it weren't for the fact that the Chargers have the 5th best EPA per drop back in the league. Does that change when some of those dropbacks are Lamar Jackson and then he scrambles? I don't know. But I think this might present a unique poor matchup for Baltimore. And if the Chargers can kind of neutralize Derrick Henry, they might be more live here than they think. Another game with really good playoff implications in primetime. Excited to see this one play out as well as the opener to what should be a really great week of NFL football, college football, and feast week in college basketball. It's the week of Thanksgiving is just such it's
amazing
a treat if you're a
time.
sports fan. Oh yeah, really really great time. I'm excited.
I think what also.
Sorry, I didn't actually make a pick. I'm going to take the Chargers by 3.
Okay. You know what? I will say this: the Chargers, like, if they win this game and the Chiefs drop any other loss, like, this is
the NFC West or AFC West rather is live.
Mm-hmm. And what's crazy too is the Chiefs still have to play the Chargers again, and they also have to play the Broncos. Again. And so I'm give me Chargers in this game. I'm with you on this, Kedrick. I really think that this Chargers team is playing their best football. They're playing really well. They found a way to get it done over the Bengals last Sunday, which was, massive. No disrespect to the Bengals. They had the chances, but you got to close those games out. And Chargers, I think with Jim Harbaugh in his first year back in the NFL, he's done a phenomenal job with this team and turning them around. And now all of a sudden they're a playoff team. They look really scary. I think if you're any team in the AFC, that's one of the teams you don't want to be seeing in January. Give me Chargers, dude. Give me Chargers by 5. I think Lamar is going to struggle. It's not in Baltimore. It's going to be at SoFi. I think Justin Herbert's going to have a big day. I think that running game with J.K. Dobbins is going to get going. I also think, too, revenge game for J.K. Dobbins as well against his former team, the team that drafted him, the Baltimore Ravens. So I expect those two to have a big day today. And I expect the ground raid to get going for the Chargers here. And
it's a good callback.
Yeah. And I'm just excited. I'm excited for this game. This is going to be fun. And like you said, too, it's going to be a great way to kick off the string of games that are going on throughout Thanksgiving, not just football, but like football, college football, basketball, and feast week. Like I do enjoy feast week. I will say that I do enjoy it a lot.
Yeah. I am not looking forward to next year's MTE for Wisconsin during feast week.
It's brutal.
That field is one of nightmares.
Are they playing in a tournament this year or no?
Yes, that is this weekend though. Wisconsin plays in the Greenbrier tip-off. They play UCF on Friday. LSU Pitt is the opening game of that Friday afternoon. Both those games on CBS Sports Network. The opener is 1:30 p.m. Central Time, and then 4 p.m. Central. Wisconsin plays against UCF. Didn't look like a great field to start, but now all 4 of those teams enter the Greenbrier tip-off undefeated. Those 2 semifinal matchups are 2 of the 5 highest ranked games by thrill score, according to your good friend Noah Ken Pomeroy on Friday. So Yeah, that should be an exciting MTE. I mean, if Wisconsin come out on top of that, the Badgers should feel really good before they welcome in Chicago State next Saturday to the Kohl Center, and then Michigan in the Big Ten opener December 3rd. It's coming up really fast, 2 weeks from today.
Let's go. I feel like they might win that. They're gonna pretty much like what I don't know what the
Pitt is really good.
Pitt is really good.
Pitt has turned out to be a pretty darn good team. I mean, UCF has a big win under its belt already. UCF has a home win on the opening night of the season over Texas A&M, the same Texas A&M team that beat a pretty frisky Ohio State team just a couple of nights ago as well. So that UCF game is definitely live for a loss that Wisconsin could take. But either way, they're going to play a quality opponent in that second game. And look, if they can beat UCF, that has the potential to be a quad one win early on. And then if they play Pitt in the second game, that's most likely sticking as a quad one win. This has turned into, I talked some sauce about them playing in this multi-team event based on, I thought they needed to put more high quality opportunities on their schedule when I saw their non-con to get themselves in the NCAA tournament. But this has turned into an event where they could really put some nice notches on their resume come Selection Sunday.
Yeah. And then keep in mind too, college football rivalry week is that weekend too.
Yeah, I'm sure that 11 a.m. kickoff at Camp Randall Stadium on Black Friday. That place will be rocking. That place will be rocking at 11 a.m. on Black Friday. I'm sure it will be.
Oh, that's a Friday game? I thought that was Saturday.
No, that's 11 a.m. the day after Thanksgiving.
Oh my
That's
God.
gonna be the most like dead.
That stadium's gonna be dead.
Yeah. It's not. It's I don't know. I'm very curious considering who the opponent is. I don't know if it'll have more people in it if Wisconsin wins or loses this Saturday against Nebraska. You would think that fans would be a little bit more excited to turn out for the game against Minnesota if Wisconsin wins. But if Wisconsin loses, they have that bowl streak on the line. Mm-hmm. And maybe that brings fans out. I don't know. Either way, it's yeah, it's this Wisconsin football season seems to be coming to a little bit of a whimper of a finish.
Whoosh, down the toilet type of deal. But hey,
words, not mine.
But hey, at least Wisconsin is they're gonna find a new OC, hopefully.
Sometime soon.
Will that OC be Kedrick Stumbris? Will Kedrick Stumbris be the next OC?
No.
He's the online sensation. Does he take his talents to the field?
Luke Fickell even has more experience calling offense than I do. As he very proudly said on Monday, he has called fifth grade and seventh grade football on the offensive side. I've not done that, so I don't think I qualify for the position.
All right. We're gonna wrap up here. We wrapped a bit early today. Watch Snap the Pigskin wherever you get your podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcast, Amazon Music, and much more. You can also find us on YouTube at Snap the Pigskin, and also be sure to listen to Kedrick's podcast too, the Sconnie Six Pack, as he says before, online sensation. His show is turning up right now. The Sconnie Six Pack is blowing up. So feel free to give a listen to that. I'm curious though what your thoughts are going to be for Nebraska, Wisconsin down the stretch. I'm curious what your thoughts are going to be when they announce the OC for that Wisconsin Nebraska game. So,
well, I mean they're not going to announce an offensive coordinator. Nate Letton, tight ends coach, is calling plays though.
Is he? They announced that, or
it is not announced, but that's who's calling plays.
Okay, interesting. So I'm Noah, joined by Kedrick. This has been another edition of Snap the Pigskin.